Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. My name is Alisa Cohn. I'm an executive coach. I'm the author of From Startup to Grown Up and the upcoming book, The Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach. I'm thrilled to be joined by my impressive, amazing friends and colleagues, Dorie Clark. Dorie Clark, also the author of The Long Game, most recently, addition to three other books, and The Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach, a book we are co-writing together. And if I may say, celebrity coach Marshall Goldsmith, the author and let's say editor and contributor to literally more books than I can count, maybe 60 or maybe 80. But his most well known in many ways, what got you here will get you there, and most recent book called The Earned Life, and also our co-author in this definitive guide to becoming a coach journey. And we are all absolutely thrilled to be here with you all today. And we are thrilled to have collected a number of questions before this to kick us off with some questions, but this is an informal Q&A, and we want to be here and available for you. So please immediately start putting your questions into the comments so that we can answer them for you live, which is what we're going to be doing. And Dorie, can you also put the Definitive Coach link into the chat? Because we are also, hi Jenny, thank you for coming. We are also going to be continuing this journey for the next year or so, collecting your questions to make sure the Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach is the best it can be for you. So please join the fun at definitivecoach.com. I'm going to kick this off with a question. Dorie, I'm going to go to you first because we have collected these questions in advance. And so we originally had a question from Malcolm Wilson. Malcolm Wilson talks about how do we as coaches get invited into the right room? Dorie, can you jump in on that? And maybe Marshall, ask you after that. How do we as coaches get invited to the right room?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alisa. So in terms of getting invited to the right room, I'm interpreting that as a question about how to make sure that we are able to meet the kind of people that we want to be coaching. And that can be really a challenge. I started my practice when I was 27 and I didn't know the right people to get into the right rooms. So that was, it was a struggle for me. It's like, how do you get started coaching people when you literally don't even know them? So I think for somebody that's starting out and they feel like they don't have the network already, but they want to level up that network, and this is something we actually are talking about a lot in the book as we're writing it right now, I would have two suggestions. The first is you can actually use content creation as a strategy to get in the right room. When you start writing for high profile publications, you are putting yourself in a place where people are already gathering. They already read the Harvard Business Review, or they read Fast Company, or whatever your field is. They read Parenting Journal, or they read nutrition, or whatever it is, depending on what type of coach you are. And so they see, oh, this is a credible person who already has the respect of gatekeepers, and so I should take them seriously too. Content is one way to get in the room. The other is networking your way into those rooms. Investing early and paying to go to conferences or to be in places where your ideal client is something that I did early on. I know Alisa certainly has, and it's been very valuable because you have to meet those people, get comfortable around them, and build friendships and relationships first, and business stems from that. So great question, and
Love
thanks.
that. Brilliant. Love that. Marshall, what would you add?
Well, let me add one thing that has really been important in my career is working for nonprofits. Now, one, we do good deeds, and I got to meet wonderful people like Francis Hesselbein and Peter Drucker. So that's very positive, that dimension. On the other hand, a high-end nonprofit, really, they have boards, and the boards are typically very important people. And I like to have dinners with my customer, and having dinner with the president of the Girl Scouts or the head of the Red Cross is equal to having dinner with the CEO of a large corporation. So in fact, the CEOs like it better because they're different. So I really like doing work for nonprofits. I've done tons of it, and it's been great for my career. And the other thing, you do good deeds. So you're doing good and you're helping your career at the same time.
I love it, Marshall. So good. Marshall, I'm going to take this one to you, and then Dorie, I'm going to ask you after that. Marshall, Angela Shatino asks, is it better to focus on one niche area or have a wide remit of services? For example, women leadership or an executive coach that can do anything. Marshall, I know you have some really strong thoughts on this. What are your thoughts about this?
Two different issues. The first issue is building your brand. Building your brand, you need to focus on one area. And the other thing, you have to be realistic. When you start, you've got to do what you got to do. So when you've got to do what you got to do, you may have broader areas and you may not be the world's expert on everything. Well, they're not paying for the world's expert on that anyway. So you could be a good expert at that or a good enough expert on that. Ultimately, I'm really big on establish a clear identity. Years ago, I said, I want to be the world's best coach at helping successful leaders achieve positive long-term change in behavior. I do a Google search, helping successful leaders. The first 500 references, 450 are me. The entire rest of the world is 50. I mean, that's a brand. I had a clear, focused area, and it has market value. Your focus does need to have market value as well.
Dorie, what would you like to add?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alisa. And when it comes to, actually, can you remind me of the question?
Yes, we're asking about niche. That's no problem. We're asking about, like, do you need to niche?
Thank you. I'm already wargaming our other great questions which are coming into the chat. So by the way, if you
keep adding questions to the chat.
Please keep adding your questions because we're going to be shifting over soon to taking them live and we want to hear what's on your mind. When it comes to niche, I have an interesting perspective because I had the hardest time in the world discovering my niche. Nowadays, I spend a lot of my time, I describe what I do, is helping professionals and organizations get more visibility and recognition in a noisy and crowded world. That is an easy sentence to say right now. It took an inordinate amount of time for me to figure it out because I am somebody, I like to think of myself as a Renaissance person. That's the nice way of saying that I'm probably interested in too many things. And so early on, to Marshall's point, I took, any sort of coaching consulting project that I could get / had a reasonable ability to do. And so I was doing everything from speech writing to helping people with social media strategy. The good news is all those things are related, but they felt very disparate. They felt very unconnected to the end user. And I think it probably confused people for quite a while. It took me a long time and actually listening to the feedback of the clients that I was serving to understand that all of those things fit under the same umbrella, which is the umbrella of how do you make your ideas more visible. So the good news is I can still do lots of different things in helping people, but now there's a much more unified front to it where people know what to call me for. But it took a long time to get there. And I think the biggest thing was just listening to the people that hired me so that I could understand how they saw it. And that helped it click into place for me.
Yeah, Dorie, I'd like to add one thing, and then maybe you could then jump into the chat and take some questions. The only thing I want to add, and I agree with both Marshall and Dorie in the sense it's helpful to find a niche, but also it can be challenging to find that niche for various different reasons, including I love to do everything. For me, I just didn't know. I was so driven to really build my practice, and honestly, I built a very successful practice without having a niche. Marshall, of course, for 20 years in my ear was like, you should build a niche, and he was right. And it just took a while, and the reason I say it took a while is because it was hard to really like pull out from all the things I was doing what the actual niche was. It took a long time for me to realize it was startup founders. And then now I've come to understand it's actually builders. People are trying to build things inside of organizations, inside of family businesses, inside of startups. And so I would just say to anybody who's saying, oh, I don't know what my niche is, that's okay. Just get started, and your niche will emerge as you learn by doing in terms of who do you love coaching, how do you get referrals, who is referring you, and ultimately the success that you get. Start by doing, do not wait to have a niche.
Amazing.
I just got applauded by Marshall.
I love that.
Yes, that's so
Okay,
great.
go ahead. Yeah.
Just as a reminder for anyone who's tuning in, I'm Dorie Clark. This is Alisa Cohn and Marshall Goldsmith. We are the co-authors of the forthcoming book, The Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach. And we hope you are here for the same reason we are, which is that we're doing a Q&A today about all aspects of building your coaching practice, whether you're a new coach just starting out and getting those first few clients, or an established coach that's looking to level up and work with bigger and better clients and expand your impact. So that's what we're doing. Type your questions into the comment box. And also, we want to hear where you're from. We'd love to see the diversity here. So please type in, where are you tuning in from, and what kind of coach are you, or do you hope to be? So I want to tap some of the great questions that have come in already. And this is a great one. Alisa, let's start with you, and then I'd be curious to hear Marshall's question. This comes from our friend Catherine Valentine. She says, what makes a great coach, and what is something about being a coach you wish that you had known earlier? So Alisa, we're just having this conversation. This is part of something we're going to be talking about in the book, but how would you answer this question?
Catherine, great question. So I think about it in three lenses. So first of all, your own inner experience and being able to tune into it. And what I mean by that is very often you're so eager to be supportive and helpful of the client that you might even be like almost anxious, or, having your feelings of, trying to solve things for people. So kind of tuning into your inner state and recognizing what your role is in terms of like, are you here to kind of support the client moving forward? And the signals you might be picking up might be from your client. For example, if your client is anxious, see how that feels to you. Basically, the data that you're getting from the client across the room from you, or across the Zoom from you, is actually very helpful data. The second lens is the client's internal experience. So what that means is this happens very often when you deliver 360 feedback. The client will actually get defensive and upset and anxious about the 360 feedback. That is like super normal, and how they're showing up is defensive. But a great coach can kind of see beneath that and say, interesting, what's going on there? What are you turning this into? What are you making this mean? And having a good conversation about the inner experience of the client. And the third is, of course, results. When your client's able to make decisions more quickly, when your client is able to give the positive feedback, correct the morale, and of course, achieve business results. One of my clients, I told this story in the book, one of my clients was a tax vice president, a tax executive. And the results that he was able to achieve directly linked to our coaching was that he took an idea he had for tax and turned it into a $20 million cost savings for the company. That is a great result you get for your clients. And it's one, but not the only marker of being a good coach. Last thing I would say is that you're a good coach when you keep getting referrals over and over.
That's awesome. Alisa, thank you for sharing that. And Marshall, I know you have some thoughts about that as well. So please, what makes for a great coach, or what do you wish you had learned earlier about in your work as a coach?
Well, in my job as a coach, and again, I have a unique coaching process, for 45 years, I didn't get paid if my clients didn't get better. So I'm very sensitive about who I worked with. And the client I spent the least amount of time with, his name Alan Mullally, was CEO of the year in the United States. I've spent the least amount of time coaching him, although we've been friends for 40 years. He had the best results. So I go to Alan and I said, Alan, look, of all the people I've coached, I spent the least amount of time coaching you. You got the best results. And I did a survey, time spent with Marshall Goldsmith and improvement. There was a negative correlation between spending time with me and getting better. So I said, what should I learn about coaching from you? Well, he told me one lesson that changed my life. That your biggest challenge as a coach is one thing: work with great people. You work with great people, your coaching process always works. You won't be the wrong people. Coaching never works. And don't make it about yourself and your ego and how think you are. Make it about how great they are. Work with great people. Well, look, Dorie said I got ranked #1 coach in the world for years. Why? Nobody knows I'm a good coach. You've been watching me coach people. How's anybody know I'm a good coach? Because I have 5 CEOs a year in the United States, among many other people. They say I'm a good coach. Well, guess what? That's what matters. It doesn't matter what you think. What matters is what they think. Work with great people and you win. Work with the wrong people, you lose. Don't take bad business. If you got to do what you got to do, you got to do it. I'm not naive. On the other hand, to the degree humanly possible, don't take bad business.
So true, Marshall. Love that. Did you have something to add, Alisa?
No, I'm just supporting Marcia's comment.
Yeah, amen. Don't take bad business. That's that is for sure. Well, this is a great question that has come in from Jenny Fernandez. Jenny, yeah, hi, Jenny
Hi,
Fernandez.
Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
This is really important. How do you advise new coaches to identify a critical problem to solve? We all know that in terms of coaching, there's lots of things we know how to do reasonably well that, maybe we could coach people on, but frankly, some of them are higher value in the marketplace than others. And also in terms of our ability to really drive impact, there might be a leader that we're coaching. There might be 20 ways where they could potentially improve, but you can't coach someone on 20 things at the same time. So how do we know where, what the first domino is that we should identify? So that's really important. Marshall, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
My own area for improvement is I express my opinion too much. So Dorie, I'm going to delegate this one to you and Alisa.
That sounds like an amazing starting point. All right. I love it. Alyssa, how about you? What would you say?
Marshall working on his areas of development. I love it. So that's a great question, Jenny. And I'm taking it as kind of new coaches. And so, as you get more advanced, you build a knack. But actually, when you think about new coaches, how do you identify the right areas? Number one, you talk to your clients and your prospective, I'll say your prospective clients. So you talk to your prospective clients and you ask questions that you're curious about. What's going on in this industry? And you'll see that in this industry, in general, I'm just making this up. I mean, this is normal for many industries right now. Because of AI, change and uncertainty is the name of the game in those companies, and leaders need tools to help them drive change and create clarity out of uncertainty. If you talk to people over and over again, and you ask questions like, what's your number one problem? What are you struggling with the most? They will tell you that is what they're struggling with. And then you begin to realize that is a thing. So that's number one, to kind of get signals from the marketplace. Number two is when you're in front of a potential client, you say to them things like, what is the number one problem that you think would drive massive impact if you could change it as a leader? And they will give you answers. And that's actually a coaching question. So you're actually curious. And also they will give you the answers about what they're really struggling with. Over time, you begin to see the patterns and see what the patterns are that people are struggling with and that are genuinely valuable. So for example, someone might tell you, a few people might tell you, well, the problem is that we have all these morale problems in our organization. Okay, great. And then you start telling people, I can help your morale in your organization. And what you find out from the market is that is all very well and good, but nobody wants to pay for that. Well, now you know that is not a valuable enough problem to resolve. So the answer to your question is ask questions of people in your target market, ask people with your prospective clients, and as you are working with your clients, continue to notice and see what are the most valuable things that you're working on with them, and then how do you extend that over to other clients. Dorie, are you going to answer that too? I think you should give it a take on that.
Thank you, Alyssa. I think that you really covered the key parts of it. Ultimately, it's just understanding what, like all things in life, it's a Venn diagram, right? The overlapping circles. What is the place where you can help someone the most based on your skills and abilities? Where do they seem to need it the most? And what is the biggest business impact or transformational impact? And sort of looking, zeroing in the middle of that circle. So I'll also tackle a question that came up here from one of our readers, Serena. This was something that I had alluded to a little bit before. How can we be selected to write for Harvard Business Review? How can we contact the editor? I will expand this out in general, Serena, to high profile publications in general. Harvard Business Review is certainly one of them. It's going to vary depending what kind of coach you are. If you're a business coach, maybe it's HBR, Fast Company. If you're a different kind of coach, there are things that everyone reads. The first step that I will suggest for people who want to write for high profile publications is understand as best you can what your target client is reading. Have conversations with them and just, casually make note. Where do you get your information? What email newsletters do you subscribe to? What publications do you read? What magazines? What podcasts? What YouTube channels? Whatever it is. What conferences do you go to? When you know where they are getting their information, this gives you a checklist to work backwards from. Because if you can make yourself ubiquitous in those places, all of a sudden the echo chamber is working in your favor. They're seeing you everywhere. So number one, it's knowing what matters in your industry. Number two, you want to reverse engineer how to actually write for those things. What I often tell people, if you're a good writer, if you can write a good article in general, that is awesome. You might be a fantastic writer. It does not mean yet that you're a good writer for Harvard Business Review, because, for instance, just using them as an example, they have a house style. They have a way that they do articles. And if you give them something that is objectively good, but it is not in that house style, almost always they will turn it down because they're like, well, that's just too much work for us to edit. They're very busy, like every publication. So you have to really sit with it. Don't just read it as a reader. Work backwards and say, how are they structuring this? What's the length? How do they open it? Is it first person? Is it third person? How many points to it? And try to understand and mirror that format. And then the third piece that I will mention is that there is information online, of course, about how to reach out to editors. What is always better, this goes for any publication, is to try to get a warm introduction. So LinkedIn is perfect for this. You can go and see, who do you know that is connected to editors? And, a lot of times people kind of overreach with their asks, but if you have a genuinely close relationship with a person, you can ask for a connection. That is a far better way of doing it, because almost any editor of a publication these days is working with a lot of strain. There's been a lot of media layoffs throughout the ecosystem. So they don't have time to go through the slush pile. They need a personal introduction. But when you can make that happen by being thoughtful, by really trying to connect with people that you have a positive relationship with, it's not just, it's a casual acquaintance, but it's someone that you have helped in the past. If they can shepherd that introduction, that is how you can get in. I've talked about this a lot more. If you want to Google Dorie Clark high profile publications, you can see lots of writings I've done, podcasts. I even have a course on it. So that's a short version there. So thank you, Serena, for the question. So let's move on. There's some awesome questions that have come up. This one, I'm sorry, it's coming up for me as a LinkedIn user, so I don't know precisely who it is, but thank you. It's a great question. What impact, this one on everyone's mind, what impact will AI have on the future leadership role and, of course, the future of coaching? Marshall, I know that you have thought about this quite a lot and have done some innovative experiments around use of AI. Would you be willing to share with us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the first thing is I love AI. I've spent hours on this, many zillion hours and years. So I was a little bit ahead of this curve. I want everybody to go to marshallgoldsmith.ai, ask it at least 20 questions, send me an email, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. I'll send you a free book if you're in the United States. So yeah, it's such a pain outside. So here's my thing about AI. I love AI. The first thing is make peace. All of this existential dialogue about should AI be good or bad? What's the problem with AI? You can waste hours on that. I'm going to help all of you listening. Your opinion on the future of AI in the global world, absolutely nobody cares. It is a complete and total waste of your time. This train left the station 3 years ago. Get on the train. I use it constantly. My LinkedIn posts are all generated by AI. The graphics AI. I write the text, have AI edit them. The graphics are all AI. They're beautiful. Go to my LinkedIn. I've got 1.6 million followers on LinkedIn. Go to my LinkedIn. I love those pictures, and I do them all myself. I got somebody call me, I want to hire your social media team. I say, you can't afford them. I'm the social media team. Well, get on board. I love it. Learn how to use it yourself and learn how to use it to gain information. See, I'm not as smart as my AI bot is. I use it all the time to gain information. You can't get into an IQ contest with these things. You're going to lose. They have instant access around the world. Mine, you can ask it a question, you get an answer just like that in 32 languages in my voice.
Love that.
That's so cool. Great answer, Marshall. Alisa, do you have additional thoughts you'd like to share about AI?
Yeah, Dorie, I just put in the private chat. I couldn't figure out how to put it in the public chat, the link to my AI. I also just have recently launched Alisa AI in partnership with a company known as Delphi. And it was interesting because I was just featured in the New York Times about this. And what I told the reporter is that sometimes when I wonder what I think, I ask my Alisa AI because it remembers everything. So I think that is a really innovative and important tool for us as coaches. At the same time, I think I would also just say, to repeat what Marshall said, we can't decide if it's good or bad. We have to realize it's here to stay. And so you need to figure out how you're going to use it. And number one, please do not be, oh, I'm not sure what to do and I'm afraid, We're all afraid. New technology can be challenging. Lean in and learn in a set of tiny experiments that feel manageable to you so that you can learn what the power of the tools are. And so that's number one, use it for different ways. And in our book, we're going to talk about the different ways to interpret and sort of put it in. Number one is kind of admin. Number two is client prep. Number three is with your client, right? Find ways to maybe nudge your client using AI tools. And then number four is kind of, after the client process. So like, ways to follow up and whatnot. So it's like, if you want to think about what are the current tools and how can I integrate them into coaching, that is a very good starting point. And then I would also say, people go right now to ChatGPT and get answers. And sometimes your clients will go to ChatGPT and get answers. And then you as the coach have the opportunity to help them understand how those answers will fit into their environment, how they will fit into their own personal makeup, because you've learned about your client's context, you've learned about your client, and help them utilize maybe good advice they've gotten from ChatGPT. So keep adapting your own version of what value you can add as a coach, and that will help you navigate this uncertain world.
Fantastic. I love that. And a new question came in from another LinkedIn user, which I think is probably on lots of people's minds, which is, how do you set your fees when you're starting out and you don't want to overcharge or undercharge? That can be a tricky balance. So I'll kick this one off, and then I'm sure Alisa and Marshall will have thoughts about this. I would say when you were first starting out, one of the go-to pieces of advice that both Alisa and I have is, and this is especially good, for instance, if you are starting your coaching practice when you already have a job, in corporate or nonprofit or whatever, start by coaching for free. Now, the caveat, clearly don't do that forever. You need to start earning money as a coach. But for your earliest engagements where you're feeling it out, you need to determine, do I like this? How do I do this well? What works for me? What doesn't work for me? And also, you're not going to be as good the first time as you are the 10th time or the 100th time. So take the pressure off. If you're charging, right out of the gate, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I charge them? How do I make sure it's worth it, et cetera? For the first, maybe 3 people, do a short-term free coaching engagement with them. Maybe it's a month, maybe it's 3 months of, a couple of meetings, but you're doing it for testimonials, you're doing it for referrals, you're doing it for experience. That way you don't have to worry about it. But in general, one of the most valuable things that you can do to get intelligence about pricing is to get to know other coaches. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, well, I don't want to get to know other coaches. Like, why would I bother? They're my competition. I want to only get to know clients. We actually don't think that's a great idea because, number one, other coaches, frankly, are not your competition. It's a big world and everybody has different niches and things like that. I would never be competing for the same clients as Marshall or Alisa or whatever. We do our own thing. And ultimately, the biggest competition is just people not hiring a coach. So make friends with lots of coaches because that's how you can have open conversations about pricing and other sensitive areas. For instance, I run a community called Recognized Expert. And within it, a lot of folks actually, really do have the kind of roll up your sleeves conversations about things that wouldn't be aired in public, about how much should I charge for this? What's normal? What's reasonable? And you can calibrate to the market. So that's really helpful. Alisa, what would you say?
I don't have all that much to add. Maybe the only thing I would maybe add is also you will not get it right all the time, especially at first. So kind of make peace with that. And trying and testing and iterating is really going to be your friend, as well as trying to figure out what the market is. And as Dorie said, finding community. And then the second other thing I would say is that when you meet people who will definitely never not be your clients or probably won't be your clients, it's not a problem to say, by the way, do you have coaches in your company? How much do you tend to pay them? Because then you get market data very clearly and quickly, and you can ask that of people who are never going to be your clients anyway. So who cares?
Yes, I love that. That's terrific. Anything that you want to add on that topic, Marshall?
Yeah, I just have a more existential comment that's related to almost everything. I'm going to give people 2 words of advice. Get famous. Get famous. You see, if you get famous enough, you get paid lots and lots of money, and you don't really have to worry about getting publications. And it's funny how that works. And people actually pay you large sums of money to write the books. So getting famous, good. Now, somebody's thinking, oh, that sounds tacky. Ooh, get famous. That sounds ambitious and selfish. Man. I'm going to ask everybody listening just a few basic questions. Question number one. Would the world be worse off or better off if you became more influential and famous? Worse off or better off? Well, I know the answer. Better off for almost every coach on this call. Two, does trying to become famous, influential, more powerful, does it make you uncomfortable sometimes? Oh, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. I shouldn't have to. My good work should speak for itself. Does it make you uncomfortable? The answer to most coaches is yes. All right, all you coaches listening, here's the existential question. What do you care about? Making the world better or being comfortable? If you want to be comfortable, don't try to get famous. Don't try to be influential. Sit back and just be a martyr. You want to make a difference in the world, suck it up. It may make you uncomfortable, and who cares?
Amazing, Marshall.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can't beat that. So we had a great question come in. Marshall, I want to go back to you on this from Charlene. Charlene is an agile coach working full-time at a company, but she wants to start a consulting practice outside of her job. So for people who are in corporate, but they're investigating coaching, they want to start having their own practice, what would be the best things that they could do? What are your thoughts?
One idea is start on nonprofits. Alisa, what do you think?
I love starting nonprofits for sure. And I would also say, and this is an underused talent or underused skill, post on LinkedIn every day. So what Dorie said about high profile publications is absolutely correct. But you know what's easy to do? Post your leadership insights on LinkedIn every day and share that. That's the way to share them with the community. People will gravitate to you, not the first day, not the first week, but as the months go by and you build a reputation of being smart, you get feedback about your ideas, people gravitate to you, and ultimately they ask you to coach them, or are you a coach? That's number one. The second is related to nonprofits. We've talked, Dorie and I have talked a lot about the idea of working for free, not forever. However, one of my clients who was turning himself into a coach, he was the COO of a tech organization, and he left. He went on sabbatical to kind of find himself. And part of what he did was he just took calls with people and was offering to be helpful to his VC contacts and his other startup contacts for free. Like, not a big deal. I'm not doing anything. I'm happy to do a call with you. And one person did a call with him and said, this was really helpful. Can we do another call? Great. Yeah, no problem. Did another call. This is really helpful. Can we do another call? After the third call, she said to him, are you a coach? And if you're not, can I be your first client? And that is a fantastic way to get to know people and have them get to know you. And once you get your first few clients, whether you're in corporate or whether you're just becoming a coach and you're trying to become full-time, those are great ways to get started. Once you get your first few clients, then your referrals and your case studies and your success stories will flow from there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. For folks just tuning in, I'm Dorie Clark. This is Alisa Cohn and Marshall Goldsmith. We are the co-authors of the forthcoming book, The Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach. This is going to come out next year, so we are starting early by having a conversation with you all about it, understanding what questions you have. And if you are interested in keeping up with the book and being on the list so that you receive notifications about when the book is going to be released and when you can buy it, guess what? You can sign up at definitivecoach.com. Enter your email address. You will get on the email list for the book, and we will keep you posted with everything. But here,
and sorry, Dorie, one more thing is we will continue collecting questions from you. So please reply to the emails that you get, because we are continuing to make this book as relevant as possible for you. Keep going, Dorie.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. So please enter your questions into the chat here. We'd love to answer some of them right now. So these are great. So a question that came in here is, I think this is really interesting, from Rupa. Rupa wants to know, when you have already established yourself as a catalyst for coaching, how do you evolve your role so that the culture continues to thrive even beyond your direct influence? Marshall, I'd love to turn to you for this one. basically it's a question about impact. If you've been coaching inside an organization for a while, how do you make sure that what you're helping people with stays and persists in the organization?
Two different ways to look at it. One, you do want to create some long-term positive feeling so they know when I do this, it does result in change. That's what you can do. Two, though, I've become increasingly realistic in my older years. You cannot guarantee that what you do is going to last forever. I mean, there's a lot of books about this. One is called, what's it one by Jim Collins, Built to Last.
Mhm.
That's all nonsense. I did a survey of every company, and their scores in terms of increased dollar valuations were identical to S&P 500. Could have thrown a dart and done just as well. Look, the reality is I'm a Buddhist. Life itself is impermanent. You show up, you do your best. Now I'm going to give you some coaching to make yourself better and happier. Let's say you help that company be better for a year. You make that leader better for a year. That's good. Now you may do something that goes way beyond that. And if you do, even better. If you don't, it's still good, because those human beings during that year had a much better year. And if you do that, be willing to declare victory. The people that read my stuff are too perfectionistic, too hard on yourselves. You beat yourselves over the head constantly. Why can't I do more? And are real hesitant to declare victory. Keep trying to make a positive long-term change and declare victory when you do something good.
Love that.
Yeah.
Dorie, can I add something to that?
Please do, Alisa. Yes.
Just to say that when I was sort of almost completing working with a client, I was talking with him and debriefing the work that we did, and we talked about, what are you now able to do? And we talked through all the things that he was doing differently in the organization. So just to say, when that person has been able to instill in himself new habits, new tools, new discipline, honestly, that's your best chance at staying power. But it was finally when I said, so is there anything else you want to say that this process has kind of, done for you, has helped you kind of do differently? He said, yes, you've made me a better father. And that was the most meaningful thing that I heard that year in coaching. And I think that will stand the test of time for that family going forward.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Alisa. And thanks for these great questions. Please feel free to keep typing them into the chat. We're going to be here until the top of the hour. So a question that came in, which I think is an interesting one, Hardy wants to know, what are your thoughts on posting coaching fees? Now, of course, the pro is that you can weed out a lot of people. If they want to pay you $100 for coaching, you can say, nope, we need a higher threshold. It's also true that if we do that, it might drive off people that you actually want to be talking to. Maybe you could come up with a mutually agreeable plan for them if they couldn't pay your full fee. So how do you guys weigh those two things? Alisa, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, Dorie, I know we have a different take on this, which I think is helpful. So I don't post my coaching fees because I don't want to be locked into something. Because if a client comes to me and I love them, or I love what they're building, or they're a startup that can't afford my fees, but probably can afford me in equity, I don't want them to not call me. I'm also personally just interested in what people are up to. And if they have the inclination to spend some time talking with me, I'm kind of inclined to hear their point of view and to kind of understand what's going on, even if they will not necessarily hire me. And so I don't like to post my coaching fees because I don't want to weed out people who ultimately I think will be strategic for me or from whom I'll be able to have a good conversation.
Nice. Thank you. Marshall, how do you think about it?
Oh, I got one question I wanted to deal with, so come back after this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Hardy, great question here. To Alisa's point, I mean, I think there's a lot of merit in that. I have typically gone more on the side of just posting them, mostly because I think for something like coaching, there's a really wide range of fees that people can charge, right? When I first started, people were asking about like earliest fees. Now, this is a long time ago, but nonetheless, for my very first clients that were not unpaid clients, I think I literally charged like $60 an hour because I was like, well, that's what my acupuncturist charges. So I guess that's what people will pay. And, I mean, and so there are many people who
Pricing.
and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's, yeah, $60 an hour. That's right. Now I charge significantly more than that. And so if you have a real mismatch of expectations, it can be very awkward to get on a call with somebody and they're expecting $60 and you're like, no, sorry, it's 60,000. They're like, what? So in order to avoid that whiplash, it is good, I think, sometimes to have grounding. My favorite way to do this is I do plenty of customized work, right? And the customized work might be a mix of consulting. It might be coaching plus other things. Maybe you're doing a retreat that you're leading, or maybe you're doing coaching for multiple people in an organization. Those are things that you can construct, and the fees are going to be different because it's very bespoke as you're doing it. But for things that are standardized, like I used to do a thing where it was like a half-day strategy session. It was what is the term of art for that is a productized service. It was the same for everyone. And so it's like, okay, I'll post the fee for that because, nice and easy. This is a thing you can buy it or not, just like you would, buy a mug. So I think it's worth thinking through. In the early days, take the call for sure, because you never know where it might lead. As you get busier, that's where you have to sort of make those distinctions. So Marshall, you had a question that you were eager to dive into. Take us away.
I've got three. The first one is somebody wrote a great question from a Buddhist perspective. Why'd you write a book called, the title is Permanence? Oh, well, I think it's a great book. I would never, in hindsight, what's that about? Very, very good question. We all make mistakes. I love the book, though. I do love the book. The title, moving on. And by the way, I'm very good at self-forgiveness. The second thing is we had a couple of questions about trying to basically convert people who don't care. They need to change this, but they don't care. My advice is, if at all humanly possible, take a deep breath and let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I've learned a hard lesson. My name is Marshall Goldsmith, not Jesus Christ. I am not here to be someone's savior. If they don't care, there's nothing I'm going to do about it. You got to do what you got to do. If you got to take business, you got to take business. On the whole, if they don't care, just take a big, deep breath and let it go. Let it go. And then finally, another one I got is, well, what about their goals and the company goals? Are they aligned and all that stuff? Well, look, as a coach, you have an existential personal choice. What I do is I try to help people achieve, have a better life as they define it. Now, I've never found that to be that particularly inconsistent with the company. On the other hand, if having a better life as they define it is not what you want to do not work with them. You don't have to have this conflict, Well, they want to have a better life, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. Well, you don't want to do it? Don't. To the degree humanly possible is don't do it.
Amazing. Thank you, Marshall. That's great. And again, just a reminder, the three of us, Dorie, Alisa, and Marshall, are writing a book. It's called The Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach. You can sign up for updates about this and to be notified when it is ready to buy at definitivecoach.com. In the meantime, you can follow all of us on LinkedIn and sign up for our email newsletters. And the way to do that, I'm putting it into the chat here. Mine is dorieclark.com. You can go there, sign up for an email newsletter. For Alisa, it's alisacohn.com, and we're just typing it into the chat. And similarly, for Marshall Goldsmith, you are probably sensing a pattern. It is marshallgoldsmith.com. You can sign up for our emails, follow us on LinkedIn, and you will be kept apprised of all of the updates around this. So many great questions have come in, and I would love to get your perspective. Alisa, maybe we can start with you on this. And Marshall, you probably have thoughts as well. What do each of you do to get a full client pipeline and keep it full? This is something that
Great question.
We're curious about. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to combine this with a few questions also that we have over here that we got from the session from last week and from our newsletter. So how do I keep a full pipeline? I mean, I've been coaching for 25 years and I'm also an extrovert. So that I go to conferences, high-level conferences for fun. I enjoy Davos. I enjoy TED. I enjoy a conference that Dorie and I met at, which is called Renaissance Weekend, and other things like that. So I enjoy meeting new people. By the way, one thing to say about that for introverts is that like I'll have to learn to work the room just like you. And so finding people in smaller groups and finding ways to connect with people one-on-one, even in large contexts, that is really a valuable skill for you to practice because it is learnable. So I'm constantly kind of out there in the world. The second thing is that now I get referrals, but it used to be when I was starting out that I would constantly, ask my friends and acquaintances and former colleagues, is there anybody that you know who would benefit from a complimentary conversation with me about something they're interested in? I promise you they will get value, and I promise you I will not pitch them. And that is the way that I would have a lot of introductory conversations early on when I wasn't getting a bunch of referrals. The third thing I will say is that if I'm inside of a company, I regularly make it a point to meet a lot of people in the company. I always take the meetings in the company. People just want to meet me and get acquainted. People, I certainly do 360 feedback inside for my clients inside of the company. So of course I meet a lot of people through that process. Sometimes another person in the company will want me to do an offsite. It may not be my full fee, but I'm willing to do that because it puts me in front of a number of other people in the company, and often they want to hire me. Those are a few different ways that I personally keep my pipeline full. And one, I want to just, Dorie, I want to hear what you have to say, but like, I want to just jump in. There was a question from Robert Wilglos earlier. If you make a connection with a new corporate executive, and then the HR person says, hey, we have a whole bunch of vetted coaches that you can use, executive. That's called normal. So what you need to do is talk to the executive and really make the case that you can uniquely solve these problems, meet the HR people. How do you get on the vetted list? Is there a way that you can do this, sort of try it and sort of use this as a pilot program? So I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an extrovert, and I'm also focused on find a way or make a way. So I tend to not to take no for an answer unless I try 2 or 3 or 4 other ideas. That doesn't always work for everyone, but I believe, again, that it's a skill that you can learn, and that getting out of your comfort zone to try different ways is part of the way to keep your pipeline full and ultimately to make a very successful coaching practice. I'm done.
Yeah,
Thanks, Marshall.
Alisa, that's great. Just briefly, I will add what Alisa is talking about, and this is a distinction that we explore in the book as well. Alisa really grew her practice over the first 20 years of her practice through what I'll call a sales forward methodology, which is really like pounding the pavement, like asking for referrals, asking for the sale. You're in a company, expanding within the company. This is a great way to do it. I have grown my practice in a different way, which is what I would call a marketing forward strategy. And so for me, I'm an introvert. I don't really love doing those things. I can do them. It's certainly not energizing and, not super fun for me. I much prefer to sort of tilt the table a little bit so that the people are coming to me. And so marketing is activities like giving talks, it's writing articles, it's writing books, things like that, so that your expertise becomes manifest to people and then they're seeking you out. The pro side of that is that if you don't really love sales, that's great. It kind of takes care of sales because they're coming to you. The downside is that marketing will not feed you tomorrow. Almost never does writing an article result in an immediate contract with somebody because they have to have the steady drip a million times of seeing your name before they're like, oh, Dorie, that's it. So it's in the beginning, you have to do both, and you have to be a little bit overweight on sales to get the business coming in. Over time, you can do more marketing, and the impact of it grows exponentially over time. So think about the categories that are the most comfortable for you and where you want to be spending your time based on how far into your practice you are. So Marshall, a question came in that I'm curious about your answer from Joseph. He says, lots of people these days are identifying themselves as coaches, but they're not really competent. So how do you separate the sheep from the goats here? What do you think about that? And how should coaches think about just the fact that there are a lot of coaches these days?
Okay, I'll answer this one, then I'm going to go to another one. First one comes from Dr. Joseph. Dr. Joseph, don't bother. A complete waste of your time. You're not going to some existential issue on separating coaches and other coaches. It's not your problem. It's like arguing, should we have AI or not? Total waste of time. Dr. Jones, my advice to you is real simple. Separate yourself from everybody else. Separate yourself from everybody else. You don't have to separate the great coaches from the other coaches. Separate you from the other coaches. Separate you. That's all. Worry about that. That's hard enough. Separating the existential coaching field, that let's all talk about that, or talk about AI, or talk about, world issues. You're not going to change it anyway. Number two. All right, I got a great question. My favorite question today from Sham Lai. Sham Lai, how do we make a permanent difference? I think he was talking about us. I'm going to speak to this one. Sham Lai, if you are listening, I'm going to answer that wonderful question. That's a question of the day. I want, by the way, I'm going to answer it for everybody. I want everybody to breathe. Take a deep breath. Now, I'm a nice Buddhist. As I've grown older, my mission in life has gotten simpler. You know what my mission is? I want you to have just a tiny little better life, a little bit. If you have one better minute, I'm declaring victory here. I mean, I'm very fortunate. 28 million people read my LinkedIn post last year, and I did a survey. How many people are impacted by something I did, or how many interactions? 1 to 2 billion. You know what? I'm going with a better minute. You know why? That's a lot of better minutes. And if I said one thing today on this real call to you as a real human being that has helped you have one better minute, I'm declaring victory here. That is my legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. Really powerful. That's great. So I love all of that. We're coming into the close of what we're doing. We have time for just a few more questions. We're going to go till the top of the hour, but a great question came in that I think is useful. It's coming up as a LinkedIn user for us here, but Alisa, let's go to you with this. What would you say are your biggest sales mistakes that we should avoid, either as a new coach or an experienced coach?
Well, I would say what I have experienced, especially early days, is I would try to sell too hard because I came from a place of being overly anxious, and it never works when you try to push too hard. So Dorie talked about earlier the notion of the marketing approach and the sales approach. So the notion that I pounded the pavement. That is true, especially for the first 5 years of my practice. I went to every networking event, every coffee meeting, every situation that I possibly could. And I still only very rarely did a hard sell, because what I felt was that asking questions and talking about them rather than talking about me was the most effective. So like a very bad sales mistake that I would make early on is I would talk all about me and what I have to offer. That turns out to be a very bad way to sell. It's really about getting them to talk about themselves and saying wise things. And if it works, it works, but also then being able to have a clear mission, a positioning statement, a packaging statement about what I do. So I would say, well, I'm an executive coach, and these are the kinds of things I work on with other my clients. And here are a few examples. Another mistake I made super early days was I did not have a good way to describe coaching. And somebody asked me to describe coaching, and it was so terrible that the person actually said to me very sarcastically, well, that was compelling, i.e. not compelling. And it was embarrassing. And you know what I did? I did not shrink up and die. I am still here, and I practiced and learned my pitch around what coaching is. So I think those are some rookie mistakes. Another counterintuitive mistake, and this has happened to me regularly. When I'm having a coaching conversation with somebody, an initial conversation with somebody, and I will say, ask about themselves, and we do a little mini coaching session, which is something that I do to, give them a sense of what coaching is. And they immediately say, great, let's do it, especially if they have not asked for the fee. What I have learned is that we're probably not going to do it because it was too easy. And sometimes when something is a little too easy, I send the contract, I don't hear back. I send the contract, I hear back, oh, I have to ask all my friends and family. So I would say those are the three things. Don't talk about yourself, talk about them. Be clear in how you're going to sum up what I do. And if it's too easy, it's probably too easy.
Exactly right. Alisa, thank you very much. That's terrific. And Marshall, a question came in that I think you would have a great insight on. This one is from Isabella. She says, basically, we can't coach people who don't want to be coached, but when you're working with senior leaders in an organization, there are some individuals who could greatly benefit from coaching. So how do we position ourselves with the people who need coaching, but don't want it or don't know that they need it? What are your thoughts?
That is a wonderful question, and there may be someone in the world who can answer that question. I am not that person. I have no idea, because you know why? I don't work with them. You know what my answer is? Goodbye. So again, back to get famous. If you get famous enough, you don't have to do that stuff. You only work with people that care. So there may be an answer to the question. It is a good question. I personally do not have a clue what the answer to that question is.
I love that. Hey, Dorie, can I ask Marshall a follow-up question from a LinkedIn user here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'll just question
really quickly.
You go. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Warren Buffett famously has a box on his desk, a literal box, and he calls it the too hard box. And so whenever there's something that comes in, it might potentially be a good investment for someone, but he says, not for me. And he puts it in the too hard box. So coaching people who don't want to be coached, I would say, yeah, too hard box. Agreed. Okay. Ask your question, please.
Marshall, there's another question here. How much is too much success one should aspire to get? Because the definition of success is not the same for everyone. Marshall, how much is too much success?
That is a fantastic question. And my advice on this can be given in two ways. By the way, what's the definition of fantastic question? I have an answer. What's an inferior question? I don't have an answer, obviously. So back to that good question. Too much success. My advice for you personally is look in the mirror. You want to find the answer to that question? I can't answer that question for you. Look in the mirror. How much money do you need? I can tell you the exact answer. Enough. What's enough mean? I don't know what enough means for you. Define enough for you. And when you're working with clients, what's success mean to them? Ask them. I cannot define success for you or for my clients. I can help my clients. Hopefully, my mission to help them define success as they define it, not as how I define it in my own life. And this relates to some people. Shouldn't you do this or shouldn't you do that? Or isn't real depth this or that or the other? Maybe it is for you. Do it. Do it. If it's that way for you, you know what success is for you, what success is for you. You do that. And basically, at the end of the day, there's only one person who got impressed anyway, the person seeing a mirror. That person's proud of you. You did the right thing. That person's not proud of you. You failed.
Fantastic, Marshall. Thank you so much. Just time for a couple more quick questions. Marissa had one. What coaching activity seems to be the quickest way to convert coaching clients versus the long game of fostering those relationships over time? So basically, how do you balance the need, the ever-present need to get clients, because we need clients to keep our business going, and also play the long game, which I've spent a lot of time thinking about. I would say, Marissa, a concept that I keep coming back to a lot in the work I do around becoming a recognized expert is the concept of social proof. Basically, this is terminology from the world of psychology, which is you need a shortcut to convey to people that you are credible and should be listened to. It's a busy world. People are overwhelmed. So you want to have shortcuts. What I like to advise people in my recognized expert community to do is to get 3 different types of social proof that are just readily at hand. So examples of this might be you've worked with lots of great clients. Well, if that's the case, make sure you're getting lots of testimonials. Put them on your website, put them on your LinkedIn. That's a form of social proof. It makes it easier for people to say, great, I'll hire her. Another form of social proof is being quoted in news media, let's say. Well, that might sound complicated. There are websites called Harrow, Help a Reporter Out, or Quoted with a QW. They actually connect you with reporters that are looking for comment on things. You can send in your comments and hopefully get cited there. So she's been mentioned in these media outlets. That's a form of credibility. Other things might be, well-known clients you've worked for, conferences you've spoken at in your field, et cetera. Think through strategically, how do I amass that social proof and then put it on your website, put it on your LinkedIn. Makes it far easier for people to let down their guard and say yes to you because they perceive you as already credible. All right. I think we have time for one last
I just
question.
want to, sorry, Carrie, I want to add one more thing because
Yes,
the question was also about sales versus marketing. Let me give
Yes.
you a sales answer to that. Get 10 no's. Go out and get 10 no's this month, the month of June. Talk to people who have an opportunity to say no to you. Ask your friends to be able to have introductory conversation. Again, it's, I promise I will add value and I promise I will not pitch. Right. And so that way you can get people who know about your coaching. And if you do that often enough, by mistake, you'll get a client. Go ahead, keep going.
Amazing. All right. Last question, powerful for all of us. Satish, thank you. If AI can already replicate parts of your coaching, what uniquely human value do you provide that I can't get from AI? This is a question that every coach moving forward is going to have to ask themselves and to answer. So Marshall, maybe we can start with you. We've created the Marshall bot, for instance. So what human value can coaches add?
Love. Next.
the most powerful of all. That's so beautiful. Alisa, how would you answer it?
Empathy and context.
Yes, great. And I will add the more craven response, which these are love and empathy are amazing. Yes. The other thing, to Marshall's point about becoming as famous as you can, and I'm putting it in air quotes because really we're talking about, are you respected in your field? Do people know that you're someone you can go to for trust? There is a kind of safety and confidence that you can inspire in other people if you are known to them and by their social circles as someone who is uniquely suited to solving this type of problem. It gives them a lot of comfort to know that they're going to the best in their field. And I think that is really powerful. And also, hopefully over time, as you share more and more of your ideas online, as people get to know you, they understand this is a person I want to be with. Being someone who is likable, who has authority, who's compelling, and who is attuned to their unique circumstance is a really powerful combination that it's cool for them to be able to spend time with you because you are someone that they have grown to admire through the way that you show up in the world. So all of those things, I think, together are really powerful. So Satish, thank you for your question. I want to give everyone here, Alisa and Marshall, a chance to say a closing word, but just as a reminder, we are the authors of the book, The Definitive Guide to Becoming a Coach, is coming out next year. To get updates, please sign up at thedefinitivecoach.com. You'll get on our email list and we can update you when the book is ready. Closing thought, Alisa.
Just as maybe so many. Thanks for all our friends who were here, Jenny, Sue, Catherine, and others. It's great to see you. Your life will be better in direct proportion to the uncomfortable situations and conversations you're willing to put yourself into. The more you build skills and the more you get uncomfortable, because then you build out your comfort zone, the better your life will be and better your practice will be.
Thank you, Alisa. Marshall, any closing words?
Yeah, keep going back to what are we here for? I think the huge majority of coaches are here for a very noble purpose, helping real human beings have a better life. And, just don't forget that. That's what we're here for anyway. Just keep focused on that. You don't have to motivate yourself. And just for me, a request, our job is to hopefully help you have a better life. If you could write down in the comments, here's one thing today that might help me as a human being have a better life, I would appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I'm Dorie. We've been joined by Alisa Cohn and Marshall Goldsmith. And please join us as we roll out the book over the next year. You can sign up at definitivecoach.com. Thanks for taking the time to be here. And we are all cheering you on for your success. Take care, everyone. Thanks.